she's like, I think that we're going to just grab everything that we can in this van and we're going to go and see family somewhere else. Do you want to stay with your dad? But if you stay with your dad, you will never see me. I think that the reason that she said that the most was for me because I was always like, I'm mi papi. Like, I would always look for him. I would always want that love and validation. Mm-hmm. But I was so, like, I want to say naive on what, even at a young age, what love was from a parent, you know? I was just like, where is he? You know, like, is he coming back? I just didn't understand. I just remember, like, the normal was the violence, the fighting. I always see her cry and I always see her unhappy, you know, type of thing. So I was just like, you know what? Like, I'll go with you.
What's up, Savage Boss Babes and Dudes? It's Diana inside the Savage Studio once again with another Savage episode brought to you by Savage Coffee, now located inside the Boeing Center at Techport. Thank you so much for all of our new followers, all the people who have subscribed and who have been sharing on social media all of the previous episodes. And I'm really excited about this next episode. I have with me a beautiful Mark Jimenez. She is the proud owner of Hexx Beauty Lounge, and I'm very excited to be able to have her here with me and that she accepted the invitation to share her story here on the Savage Podcast. Welcome, Marlene.
Hi.
Thank you so much.
I can't top that. Hello.
Thank you so much for accepting the invitation to be here. I'm really excited to further discuss, you know, some of the stuff that we've been talking about via social media, because that is how we connected and that's how we met. Mm-hmm. And actually, before we even hit record, come to find out you've already been to Savage Coffee and you knew about us when we were still in the coffee trailer. Mm-hmm. That's so awesome. And I mean, you don't even have to lie or anything like that, but what did you think?
Honestly, it was really cute. I loved it. Like, I saw the big old, like, red letters and everything, and I was like, what's that? You know? And it just goes to show, like, as soon as I started following you on social media, I'm like, oh my God, I was there.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, big lips. I'm like, I know what it was. Like, it was really good.
That's awesome.
I honestly, I loved it. Definitely during the weather time, perfect. I was on a mission for something else for my kid. And I ended up, I'm like, no. Coffee before I start anything. And then I was good to go.
That's so awesome. That is so awesome. So you were born in Vancouver, mm-hmm. Canada. Okay. Mm-hmm. Vancouver, Canada. But you were raised in Oakland, California.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Wow. Tell me, that's a huge leap.
Yep.
From Canada to California.
Yeah. So in between, my parents' life choices kind of like moved us a lot around. Uh-huh. So for me, it was more like we had a little gap of living in Mexico, then Oakland, then trying to go back into like a little bit, you know, moving into better things and better, you know, lifestyle. So we ended up going to San Francisco for shortly after that, just California, where it was like Santa Ana, California, Orange County area. So that's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I've actually been to. How long were you in Canada?
I want to say maybe like 2 months.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So you were itty bitty.
Like, that's why I never say like I was born there, but not raised.
Yeah.
Fully. You know, the only time that I went back was to see our grandparents, my dad's grandparents. So.
They are still in Canada?
So actually, they're both deceased. It was my grandpa. Well, my grandpa that I knew of, he was French Canadian, and he was named Frankie, and he was a wonderful grandparent. Very supportive towards my mom, especially the language barrier. He was, bien Americano. Uh-huh. My mom's super Mexicana, so he taught her how to drive and everything. And then my grandma, she was lovely. And then after that, yeah, I mean,
have you ever been back to
them for
so have you been back to Canada?
No, unfortunately not since I was 5.
Oh, okay.
So just very briefly, and I don't know why I did travel a lot. It's just I never really. I mean, I've gone to Washington again, but I never really was like. I think I had like plans with a friend to go back and visit, and during that time, because she is actually from Montreal, Canada, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go back and da-da-da. And then I got pregnant, and then I just like
plans changed.
Just work, work, and then just everywhere else except for there.
Yeah, I've actually had the opportunity to go to Canada, but I only made it to Victoria. I basically just like jumped to the border and just ended up in Victoria with a few friends because we wanted to go and travel. And it's a lovely place. I love it. I hope to one day be able to go back and discover more of Canada. But so from Canada, you jumped over to Washington.
We went to, Washington very shortly. Then we said our despedidas with our grandparents, and then we went to Michoacan.
And what was the decision behind going to Michoacan? Like, what made your family pick up and decide, okay, we're going to Michoacan? Right? Mexico, by the way.
Yeah, Mexico. So my dad's from Michoacan. And,
really? That's awesome. My family's from Michoacan.
I read that today. Actually.
Maybe we're like related.
Right? Like, no wonder. We're so cute. So the reason for moving to Michoacan is that, so my father, he was in a lot of things and, life choices that were his, that my mom, she was like, you know what? I have 2 little girls. I need to go ahead and like do better. But of course, at that time, she left her home. She left Jalisco because we're from Jalisco.
So your mom is from Jalisco?
My mom's from Jalisco.
Your dad's from Michoacan.
Mm-hmm.
They got together.
Yep. My dad went to go visit that pueblo, and he's like, Mente chiquita, like, let's go,
wow.
Literally. And in those times,
how old was she?
She was 14 when she met him. 15 when
little.
Se la robó, type of thing.
Yeah. That's how it is over there in the rancho, especially.
It's the norm.
I don't know if it's still like that nowadays, but back in the day, yes, that was the thing.
That was the norm. That was what everybody was accustomed to. Se la roban, se las llevan,
And for those who don't understand Spanish, se la roban is like they steal her.
Yeah,
that's basically. I mean, and nowadays that would sound really bad. Actually, that sounds like kidnapping. But back in the day, like that was how you would court somebody.
That was like, put it that way. That's right. It sounds so romantic, It was just more like, come with me now or never, and then your parents will never accept you again, type of
Pretty
thing.
much, that's how it was.
So, but her life story isn't as beautiful as we probably say courting and stuff like that. It was just a better life for her that she imagined and got swooned over, So then she saw the uglier side of things. And my dad was always in and out of prison, always like in trouble with a lot of things, mostly like going into drugs and doing a lot of dumb stuff that, she regrets. But I think that overall, that decision of moving back to Mexico was like, you know what? I'm going to have support. I'm going to have something really good. And
it was just going to be herself better. And you?
And no, my sister. I'm the middle one.
Okay.
So she had my sister first and then myself. And again, it was Canada, Washington, Mexico.
So Mexico, though, you guys left just you 3 without your dad.
Without him.
He's in...
He was in prison.
He was in prison at this time. So she made the choice to go over there because of that support that she was going to have over there.
With her family. Or with his family.
Yeah.
And with her family too. But
at this point, how old are you?
So I was probably about 3-4 months. Like I was a baby.
So you were, you were a baby. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I don't even recall, I think it was I was 11 when I found out. I'm like, wait, we lived in Mexico? I was like, so I could say I'm super Mexican, which was I'll tell you a little bit more because for me, I always was the outcast from, being with my super ranchero Mexican family to living in Orange County, California, So to me, I was just oh, that's super cool. I didn't know that. You know? And I was like, oh, okay. So the more you found out as you ask questions, because my mom was very hush hush about a lot of things up until we were a little older, So
how long were you guys over there for?
7 months, I do believe. She took everything. She had a little store out there. She tried to make ends meet and stuff like that. So her story with that was that, the family wasn't as supportive. They ended up taking everything from her. She ended up just having to come back to the United States and try to make it out here. So she pretty much left everything there.
And how did she decide on California?
So she ended up, we ended up going to Oakland once my dad got out. He was just talking to her, she was still loyal. She was married.
Yeah.
She was still visiting. She was still trying to do what she could and
to keep the family together.
I do remember when we were younger, up until when we moved to California, what I do remember is that we would, get on the little white buses, go and visit dad. We would have our family room and stuff like that. So
how old were you at that point?
From what I remember, I was 4.
And you still have memories of that?
I mean, I do, like, here and there. And I think it's like one of those things that where the mind triggers, like, little events. It's like, oh yeah, like I remember bits and pieces. But as you get older, you know, at least for myself, it's like foggy, you know. You remember the good, you remember the bad, and you remember like the in between type of thing.
What was that time like growing up while he was in prison and your mom was basically a single mom trying to raise you guys on her own?
That was hard.
Yeah.
And for that, I will cry.
No worries. I mean, being a single mom, my respects to people who have to take that on, whether it's by choice or not, because raising children is so hard when you have your spouse or your partner with you to help you out. But doing it on your own, I can't even imagine. I thank God I have never had to do it on my own, but I can only imagine. And I've only heard stories of what that experience is, both for the person who's doing it and for the children who have to live through it.
Yeah, I think for my mom, that was probably something that she had to really grow fast from. I just remember that once she ended up, you know, he got out of prison, promised a different life, started being like, hey, you know, like we're gonna, you know, I'm not gonna be with my pendejadas anymore type of thing, you know? So then I just remember always like my mom crying and struggling, trying to work, you know.
Because I mean, she's still growing up too.
She's
how old is she at this point?
She was about 17 when
Can you imagine being that young and dealing with that kind of stuff?
Like 3 kids already. Like I have 1, and I wouldn't even, you know what to do with 3, not knowing English, working odd jobs.
Yeah.
Living in Oakland, and sometimes like I do get teary-eyed because I'm like, pobrecita.
Yeah.
You know?
She went through a lot.
Like I feel for her.
How was it when he got out? I mean, what changed for you guys?
You know, I
and was there that change that he promised?
Absolutely not.
No.
No. So it got worse. For my sister and my aunt, because when we moved to Michoacan, my mom was like, hey, I'm going to bring my sister because I need help with the kids, you know? And, you know, I really am proud of her because she did not only bring her sister, but later on her brother. And during that time, my father got out of prison. And he was like, hey, you know, like this life that I promised you, like it was just pretty much like all crap. You know, he started dealing drugs, started selling again, started, you know, working for different people. And it's like we kind of like resented him more than anything. So we hated having him around.
Because at this point, how old are you?
Like I was already like 4, and I know 4 or 5. I already knew what he was. We knew at that time. I remember visiting him. I remember that he was coming home. I remember the talks that my mom had, like, hey, if he's with his friends, don't go out there. Like, stay in the kitchen. Like, and of course, her culture, our culture, because she raises just the same. It's like you provide, you know, for your husband, and you know, you try to be like, oh, you know, like food's ready, this and that type of thing. But in my lifestyle, it was just more like my mom being like, you know what, don't go outside. Don't offer anything. Don't talk to them. Don't do that. You know, like, don't be nice. Like, don't be muy confiada. You know?
Just avoid them.
Just avoid them. Shortly after, my sister got molested, and my aunt got raped by someone that he was like so friends with.
Somebody that he was bringing around the home.
Like a tío. Yeah. You know, it's like that thing, like people come and they're just like, oh, that's your uncle. That's her friend, you know? And I think like during that time, that's where it doesn't only hurt, but just breaks you. And it's like that little spark that you have like as a kid, you just create more trauma and more like, you know, you can't trust anybody. You can't trust your parents. You know, you don't know what's going on. You know, you're young. My sister had to, you know, just like my aunt, she had to do a lot to mentally be okay, to be well with accepting what happened, but also knowing that it wasn't my mom's fault. it wasn't like their fault. It was just someone so malicious and sickening,
Yeah.
that unfortunately came into our home. And during that time, I remember, sleeping in the attic at times. Number one, Oakland is really, really ghetto in that area. It's really like poverty. It's really, at that time was really bad. So like bullets don't go high. At least my mom thought that, So we would sleep a lot of the times there. And after this incident, I feel like we would just stay most of the time up there so that we wouldn't come down and kind of confront my dad or like anything that he was doing. And I think that after that, just my mom just suddenly was like, you know what? Enough is enough. We can't do this. Like, and it was very fast, very, very rapidly how everything changed.
Was this because of what had happened? Is this why this led to her making that decision?
Mm-hmm. I believe that was like her final straw. I know that she went through a lot of things that she till this day probably hides. I feel bad for my sister. She had to experience, she's the oldest one. She's the one that has the most responsibility and stuff like that. But I feel like she's an amazing woman now. But the things that she had to go towards and live with my mom, it's like, I mean, I immense them for being so like powerful and great, and especially my mom for making such a decision like, you know what, this is all crap. I don't want this at all, and I'm better than this. I think that's where it starts. Like, I'm better than this. I want more, and I want more from my family, and just kind of, stop. Like, that's where everything ends type of thing. A lot of people have to be like very strong minded in order to do that, because overall it's like, I know she thought about her children. They're not going to have a dad. They're not going to have this, connection with him anymore. But overall, that was his life choice and this was ours. So I remember she was just like, hey, she rented a van. She used to work at a cleaners, like what was it? Like a
dry cleaners?
Like a dry cleaners, yes. And she was like, hey, you know what? We're going to grab as much stuff as we can. We're going to put it. I remember it didn't have seats. So I was like, what is this? Like, what are we doing? Are we moving again? Like, because all we knew is like pick up and go, like.
Now, did your dad know what was going on, or this was in the middle of the night, or like while he was out, or
you know what?
Take me to that day and how this was happening.
During that time, it was in the day. He said he was going to go to work. Of course, it was never work. It was, my mom was always providing, paying the bills and doing stuff. So he was just slacking off and, doing something, But I remember it was during the day. And she's like, hey, I think that we're going to just grab everything that we can in this van. And we're going to go and see family somewhere else. They were like, she was like, do you want to stay with your dad? But if you stay with your dad, you will never see me. And I think that the reason that she said that the most was for me, because I was always like, I'm mi papi. Like, I would always look for him. I would always want that love and validation. Mm-hmm. But I was so like, I want to say naive on what, even at a young age, what love was from a parent, Yeah. I was just like, where is he? Like, is he coming back? Type of thing.
Yeah.
Like, I just didn't understand.
And I mean, that's a common trait for any little girl. You tend to gravitate towards your dad. That's your daddy.
Yeah. And I think that.
Did you know any of the reasoning behind why she was making these decisions?
No, I just remember like the normal was the violence, the fighting, the crying and stuff like that. I was just
so like, you contributed this change or this decision that she was making to, okay, well, maybe she's just tired of what's been going on. So it's time to move on.
I don't like it. So she doesn't like it. And I always see her cry and I always see her unhappy, type of thing. So I was just like, you know what? Like, I'll go with you. Like, she did say like, we're going to be better, without him, and he could come see you whenever he wants type of thing. And I think she meant that mostly because she knew that she didn't want to let me stay, Mm-hmm. But I was just like, okay. And I remember my little brother, I do have a little brother, and we're only 2 years apart. And he was just like, he's like, he's little, so he just goes where mom goes. And I was like, well, I want to go with him, So we were closer. We would always like just till this day, we're just much closer, So I was just like, well, I want to go, And of course, my sister, she grabbed what she could and we just left. And I remember he like chased us down for like he had like this big old Chevy truck, like the old ones with the visors and everything.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
This is like the 80s. So he like chased us down.
So he found out.
He finally he did.
He found out what
found out
her intentions were.
But I think that a neighbor, because we used to live like in a duplex, kind of by the alley, like this community type of thing, homes, It was like lower income homes. So everybody knew everybody. And everybody would just like know everybody's business because we were so close together. So I'm pretty sure someone, I forget if my mom said that it was like the neighbor or his friend or something.
Yeah.
But
como dicen en español, les dio el pitazo.
Yeah. Y el chisme pasa rápido, So they like told him and he came like
typical Mexican macho man. Yep. How is my family going to leave me? How dare she take my kids? Blah, 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 blah.
Pretty much. And, it was just super fast. My mom's like, lo perdí. Y no sé cómo, pero Dios lo salvó porque lo perdí in the highway.
Did you guys know that he was following you? Did you know? Yeah. I mean, your mom knew, obviously, but did you know?
Oh, absolutely. Because I remember the van had these like windows, because talking back to about the cleaners, they rented it out to her, but they pretty much like gave it to her, So they were really good people to her. And I just remember seeing him like through the windows and I was like, oh my God, I think that's my dad. But he was so mad. He was just like, de verdad, a lo mejor los iba a pegar. It was like that. Like he would get so close. And I think it was just intimidation, scaring my mom, wanting her to pull over. And she didn't. She didn't budge. She just kept driving and she lost him. And either he ran out of gas or something. I don't know. But, like we ended up going all the way straight and we ended up at an aunt's house. And
where?
That's when we ended up in Costa Mesa, California. And then we ended up moving for a short period of time to Santa Ana, which was literally like passing a little bridge. And it's just like Costa Mesa, Santa Ana type of area. Mm-hmm. And to me, that was so luxurious. That was like, we were close to the beach. We were in a way nicer area. Yeah. She had an apartment in Santa Ana. And
at this point, what kind of toll had it taken on you mentally, emotionally, even physically? All that moving around, all that insecurity that you guys had lived through.
I think that all of that brought me to growing up and just becoming in that stage of life where it's like, what is love? How do I trust? Like, am I okay? Like, do I look okay? Like, do I care or not care? All of those questions that I think that where do I fit? All of that just kind of
started developing. Yeah.
Developing and you're growing up and you're having all these emotions and, your answers finally get truly answered by like whatever you're seeking from your parents, like from your mom and their family and what you're trying to be like, oh, well, why am I like this? Or why do I feel like that? Or why am I so angry and stuff like that? And then, it all comes to light and then you're just like, that makes sense, and it made more sense when I was older. Of course, not doing the right choices, not, doing things properly, taking advantage of certain situations, like where, for example, my mom would be like, if you keep on doing this, you're going to get in trouble, and it's just like, you go y te picas, and then you're just like, okay, you're like falling into the same steps because you think like that's not going to happen to me, So I was always like broken in a sense, but still trying to be like, nah, this is okay, because it goes back to how I grew up and what I saw was okay and what I thought was okay, the little, boyfriend fling that it was like okay for him to yell at me, the, having an ex-husband that was like very mentally abusive, that was all okay.
How do you feel like during this time that you are you're growing up. Your mom is still growing up too, because she's still super young. Your siblings are growing up. But you personally, how do you feel like you showed your brokenness, or did it affect the way your relationships? Like, how was your childhood?
You know, I would say that I was very, like I said, to me, I thought that where we moved with my mom's family, because I was just all her family, I got happier, and you could see that in a lot of pictures, like being with your primas and your tias and everything. And we didn't have that. We were never close to family, you know, like when we were younger. But up until like later, being 9, 10, you know, you could see like I was happier. But then, of course, you get into that, you know, I would say like maybe when I was 11, 12, it was like the hardest. It was like that's where all the emotions and you're developing and everything. And you're just like, that, I think, to me, I was like, how do I express myself without being angry? And why do I feel so hurt, you know? And that goes into growing up too fast type of thing. I was really into drawing, music. And of course, with my family, it was very like, we had our hardcore, awesome, like Mexican families, you know, that they love to be like, they, you know, came over here and stuff like that. And they only knew Spanish. Oh, and then we had our cholos, like, and cholas, you know, and they were just that little bit that they were like, oh, this is different, like, which was like the whole rock scene and stuff like that. And I knew that I liked everything, but I knew that music and escape and just being out and about, that made me happy, you know? So I feel like for the most part that I tried to push at that time, like my family away, and just go through different steps and just be like, no, I'm gonna ditch school. I'm gonna go and do this. No, I'm gonna go and do, you know, what the friends are doing, because like I like drinking, like I like partying, you know, stuff like that. And I was so young. I was like 13, 12 when I started just like ditching school, doing, you know, not going to school at all, just venturing off. And like my poor mom, she didn't know a lot of stuff, you know. She was more worried on how she's gonna pay rent, what she's gonna do. My sister, like, she would, if she could, she would definitely try to like whoop my ass. She would go find me and bring me back and be like, Mom's gonna be so mad. So I los tapábamos, you know. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, she was trying to grow up and have her fun and not be so tense, you know. And she was dealing with her own demons, and At
this point, did you know what had happened to your sister and to your aunt?
No,
you didn't know that.
I didn't know until I was, I would probably say about 17 or 18. Like, I didn't know. I knew it was just all bad, but
you didn't know to what extent.
You didn't ask a lot of questions. Like, I remember that my mom just didn't keep a lot of memories, like photos and stuff like that. She had a Ziploc bag, and she had some photos of him. They were mostly like prison photos or us, out, with him taking pictures, like in the car and like stuff like that. Your outside pictures going to the park and stuff like that, but not to an extent where all of his were put away. And we didn't really ask questions because he was never there. So it was just very common to just not, he came, he didn't, and it wasn't like we missed him, but it wasn't like we missed that love or that affection or anything. So I didn't ask questions, and it would hurt my mom too. So it's naturally, you just don't ask the questions, So was there a relationship with him after you guys left, or no? No. So with him, he actually looked for us. And I saw him when I was probably 14 years old. And he had given my mom a car. He had tried to buy us with love type of thing, My sister was about to do her quinceañera, so that, the big parties and everything like that. So he gave her like a big old pulsera that was like a gold, with like charms and all that stuff. And to me, he gave me a necklace and stuff like that. But it was like he went to go kind of be like, hey, you know, look what I have type of thing. Like, let's get back together with
Let's
my mom
try it out
and
again.
let's, you know. And she was like, no. And she didn't know how, you know, she didn't give him any address or anything like that. And we weren't in contact with his family. We kind of just, at the moment that we left, we kind of just
Cut ties with everybody.
yes. And we had a really sweet prima. I remember mi prima Marta and like her mom and a couple other ones, but that was it. Nobody else like really knew about us much. I mean, probably up until 3 years ago, through Instagram, I started talking to a cousin. They were like, hey, you know, so it was like that, you know. So how he knew our address, I don't.
He surprised you guys.
Someone
Didn't know.
gave it to him, and he surprised us. And I just remember that was in the middle of the night. He showed up, trying to buy us off, type of thing.
What was that like for you to see him after such a long time?
I was more shocked more than anything. I was just like, what happened to you? Like, I didn't know. And my sister didn't want to see him, but she was curious, you know, type of thing. And then my little brother, he never really had a connection with him because he was so young.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just very briefly. My mom kind of just told him to pretty much like fuck off, you know, like never find us again. You're good, you know?
You're not welcome here, basically.
You're not welcome at all. And after that, I think he had left, either he went to jail, and after a certain amount of time, you get kicked out. You have to go to Mexico or something. Like
yes.
Where you're from.
You get deported.
So you get deported. So he ended up going to Tijuana, which is right by San Diego border. And he started his own family. And I know I have 3 other siblings. And then he passed away when I was, I want to say 19 or 20. I didn't go to his funeral. My sister had the chance when his family reached out to be like, hey, like, you want to come and see your dad? He lives over here, kind of like reconnect. And this was before he passed away or anything like that. He was already like, you could tell he was kind of, you know, rough. He wasn't in prison, nothing crazy. He was just living out there. And my sister's like, hey, like, I'm going to go meet with, you know, our dad. Our aunt reached out, his sister, like, if we want to go ahead and meet with him. And I didn't. I think that for myself, I kept my distance for the best because I didn't need him. Like, I had a really good mom. I had a strong mom. Like, all the love, all the support. And it's like, you know, it's sad to say he's your father. He's, you know, what brought you. Mm-hmm. But you don't need that validation. And that moment that we kind of said our goodbyes, when he showed up, I think that was enough. Like, that was like my chapter closing. And for my sister, everybody's very different. And I think for her, it was very like, okay, you know, like, I want to go and see what happened. Like, what became of him.
She needed closure.
Happened. She needed her own closure in her own way. My brother went too. But I think that for him, it was more like, I need my closure because I didn't have his own answers to anything, really. His demeanor with life is very bien callado. Bien, doesn't want to get involved in like asking questions, or he's mama's boy for sure, but he's very like, nah, I don't want to, you know? So I think that was surprising to me that he wanted to do that. But everybody's choice, you know? Mine was to stay behind. And
what does it feel like when you've gone through so many experiences, unfortunately bad experiences, with your father? How does it hit you the moment that you find that he's passed? Like, what kind of feelings are you feeling? What were you feeling in that moment?
You know, I hate to say it, but it kind of like not as remorseful. I felt bad for him. I mostly felt bad for his family. I hope that they had a better life than we had. And I just felt bad for them. You know, living in Mexico is hard. And if he was the like an income source or anything like that, because I know they lived in, you know, his family's house and stuff like that. But when he passed, it was just kind of like a sad news, you know, like, oh, you know, so and so passed away, like, you know, like, que Dios lo bendiga, and that's it. I'm telling you, I had that closure a long time ago. And I think that I just felt like I had to, you know, take a minute, talk to my mom. I called my mom and I was like, hey, did you hear about this? Because my sister told me first. Because, you know, and I knew at that time we all lived in different states. And she was just like, yeah, that happened, you know? I was like, oh, okay. Because my sister got married young and she actually came to Texas first. So when she found out, she called us and we were just, you know, like, I think my sister was really sad about it. My brother too, but not to like the, oh my God, we have to get there, you know. And that's sad to say, but he lost that chance.
Do you feel like, and you briefly mentioned it earlier, do you feel like the experiences that you had with your dad, the type of relationship that you had with your dad, what you saw between your mom and your dad affected your relationships during your life? And if so, how did they impact those relationships?
You know, I think honestly with that was a lot of, for myself, I had to really learn how to not let it affect me. I was married for a long time. I was married for 9 years. I did the, you know, graduated from school or got my GED and I was dating someone and I got married, you know, really young. And I was just like, this is okay.
What was that dynamic like?
That was very like he led, I follow type of thing. I had my own, you know, dreams and what I wanted to do, but overall it was like I was his support system type of thing, you know, like the typical, you get married and you're just like, oh, you know, like I'm so in love, let me just go see what he's doing. And you know, he joined the military, and wherever we moved, I went, I followed, and eventually I started growing up and I was like, okay, I have to be like, you know, build my backbone. And I would talk to my mom and she'd be like, no, you have to do more for yourself. Like you know, that's his life choice. You got to push yourself more. And I was so, it was weird because I was so loving and caring and none of my insecurities came out or none of like I was just so loyal to the wrong ones, you know, especially in that situation, in that marriage. And then when things kind of just hit the fan, that I finally was like, hold on, I'm doing the exact same thing and I'm not happy. I'm doing the same thing that my mom would do, like just listen and just like, in a sense, like it sounds so messed up, but like bow down and just be like, oh, it's okay, like shush it under the carpet, it's fine, it'll get better type of thing. And that just like slowly showed me that I was just like, wow, you know, I'm just thinking more for him than thinking for myself, than choosing myself. And at that time I didn't have a child or anything like that. And then when the cheating came and just all of this other stuff, I was like, I'm more insecure. All that bad stuff that I grew up with, I was like, wow, I'm getting lied to, deceived. I'm so loyal to someone that's like not worth it. And it hurt.
Mm-hmm. Were you talking to anybody about what was going on in your marriage, or were you bottling everything up?
Oh no, I think that I was scared of the, you know, you got married and I told you not to type of thing. I told you not to get married young because, of course, like my mom did not want me to at all. She was like, I had just finished like school. I was going into cosmetology. At that time, he was in basic training and I had more to look forward to, but I decided to follow his footsteps type of thing, you know? And I was so in love. So I was like, let me just do it. It's fine. And my mom's like, you know, so I bottled everything up. I would see a lot of things, and I felt that at that moment I was becoming my mom's like footsteps in her lifestyle, how she was very like naive on a lot of things or wishful thinking that things would get better. I didn't say anything because I was embarrassed, you know, like someone's going to prove me wrong that I got married young, and you know, my mom's right, because no matter what, I was still that little misfit. Like, no, nobody could tell me what to do. I know everything, you know? I don't think you fully grow right away until you accept your mistakes, you know?
Yeah. And I think it's really common for children that come from divorce and single parent homes to want to create your own family. Like you want that. We're all, as babies, we come into this world wanting to love our parents because those are your heroes. Those are your first superheroes.
Yeah.
You want that, you know? And I feel like when you don't have that, you want to do everything possible, even going blind sometimes and not seeing and paying attention to the red flags, that you will do anything and with anybody, that the first one que se te pare, to create
Now
that.
that I think about it, I'm like, está bien feo, but I have a lovely little boy. But I'm like, why? You know, like, casi like, you know, to be so dramatic, I'm like, casi me moría por él, you know? And then I think about it, I'm like, damn. I'm like, I could have gone a different route. But,
Right?
you know,
like if I could talk to myself back then.
I know, but I agree with you. It's like your mentality is so different when you're under those circumstances. And you're right. I did want my family. You know, it's something that
you're trying to recreate what you didn't have.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's like, I'm okay being by myself. I'm okay being, you know, I am in a relationship, but it's like, I don't push it as much anymore, that I'm just like, oh, I got to get married by this time. Oh, I have to be. And it's like, no, one and done. It kind of got, you know, that mentality of like, I'd rather build something. I'd rather grow with someone. And if it comes along, then it does. And something beautiful comes out of it, instead of just being like, that's what I want and that's what I deserve. Because of course, everybody deserves so much more, but different circumstances, you know. So
during you growing up, dealing with all these things that you were dealing yourself and with your family, your relationships, and your family dynamic, were you thinking at all about your future, what you wanted to do? What do I want to be when I grow up? Or were there any influences either through your mom or at school or anything of what you wanted to be? What did you want to do?
So I grew up in the whole like metal punk rock scene, you know? So I love the aesthetic. I love how it was everybody just being their own person, and you didn't look at everything like, you know, oh my God, that's not in, or this or that. Of course you could tell like, you know, who had the nicer shoes, who didn't, who actually could afford these badass boots and who couldn't, you know? But overall, I was just like, I like that. I'm going to continue in this path type of thing. And I like that aesthetic, and that's for me. I like the music, and eventually like you see things like, I would say like Dita Von Teese. She's a performer and very like 1950s aesthetic, you know. And I love that.
You gravitated
that
towards that.
Beautiful. Yeah. Like how clean and beautiful she looks, so like porcelain, you know. So of course you start doing your own makeup like that, and you're exploring and watching videos. And back in the day, MySpace was a thing, you know. So you were like, you know, put this music on and who reacts to it, and oh, that's cool. And then you follow other things, and to me, the world was very like, I'm a visual, so I like to, even when I do like my makeup or my art, I liked all that stuff. So I would pick and choose what I liked the most, and that's how I decided going into cosmetology school. But I also, to backtrack a little bit, I was also really into cars, really into muscle cars, you know, and I did welding. I went to Back Bay Continuation School.
Really? Look at you.
I ended up doing that as like a elective, you know, and I did get in a little trouble, but You know, I graduated and I remember just being very like connected to like that side of myself, but also the very feminine side of myself that I would wear red lipstick all the time and like some god awful like liner that was like, you know, to me that was the coolest thing that I could do. Because of course my mom never taught me that. It was just of more what I saw. She didn't have the time to sit there and really be like, this is what we're gonna do, you know. And my sister, she had these chola brows that, God help her, you know. Now I ended up fixing them for her, but you know, like, but at that time, you know, it's like that's what I like.
That was what was in,
and I would just grow up, pick and choose what I wanted, and I did even when I was still younger. I ended up doing tattoo apprentice, and I thought I wanted to do hair tattoos. I didn't know what I wanted, but I know I liked it. And I know that it was intriguing. I had a little bit of a downfall on how the tattoo world for me was. I got like that machismo man that was like, you do this and you don't get to do that yet. And, you know, so for a year it was just like, oh God, like this is not what I want, you know? So even though I knew how to draw and I was very like creative, I didn't go far with it, you know? I did my time, you know, stopped. And then I ended up just doing hair and makeup. I looked up to this girl that I went to school with, and she had her own little pinup magazine calendar type of stuff in Downey and in Burbank, California. She would travel and do hair. She was older than me. And she would be like, hey, you want to come with me? And I was like, oh my God, me? You know, like, that's cool. Okay. So then I started doing victory rolls and, you know, hair, and I was licensed already, so I got a little connected to that. And of course I got married, and then I had to let it all go, and I followed him. Then shortly after I started just working for MAC Cosmetics, and all of those people, especially like going and meeting different stores, like popping in and just going into like educational purposes with it. With the company back in the day was really amazing. They
so you started working for them since back in California?
No, actually, when I was 2013, I started working with them.
And you were living where?
And I was living in, at that time, Kansas.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So that's where you start with MAC.
I started with MAC, and I ended up then shortly taking a break. I got pregnant, and then I ended up doing virtual stuff because of funding that they give spouses, and you're like, okay, use that money, put it in educational, and then, you know, venture off with it type of thing. And I saw that with cosmetology, I could do professional, like certified makeup applications, lashes, and film makeup and all, special effects and everything. And I was like, okay, I want to do that.
What was the reaction of your husband at the time when you were getting into all of this?
He was very like, yeah, go for it, do it. But during those times, he was doing his own thing, like deployments. And he was actually surprising. He was actually supportive of that. Okay. You know, it wasn't, I don't know what it was. It was just more like he was supportive in certain things, and in other things, he was just like, I don't care. Like, you know. If you're going to do it, that's fine, you know? But
with this,
he was just like, yeah, do it. And he was actually, he would tattoo, and he actually knew about cars, and that's why we get along so much. And we obviously had to, you know, have something start lovely, you know? So he was supportive with that. We would go to events. He would help. When it came to the sense like loading my car and with my makeup and stuff like that.
At this point, are you viewing this as a business? Like something that you could do? Oh, I'm going to do this for a living. This is something I want to professionally do.
You know, yeah, I did. And, you know, I would put myself out there, and people would just be like, oh, okay. Like let's work together. I need it for a wedding. Or especially when we moved to Colorado, it was a lot of like the Hispanic community that were like, oh, you speak Spanish? Oh, te voy a contratar para la boda de mi hija. Mm-hmm. And I was still working with MAC, and they were just like, yeah.
And that was like, on the side.
And that was
You
on
were
the
doing it on the
side. That was
side.
just me. Like,
So you had your job at Mac, but you were already, you know, getting this going.
yeah, and
doing it on the
traveling,
side.
doing hair, makeup, especially for Halloween. I really loved that morbid side of like special effects. So
I've seen
Halloween,
some of those things.
very gory.
Yes, not that I was stalking her.
That's okay. I love the love.
But no, let me. I'll say this: when I invite somebody to the podcast, I do my homework. So yes, if you reach out to me and tell me that you want to be on the podcast, I will be stalking your profiles to see what you're all about. But yes, and I'm glad that you brought it up because I started viewing some of your pictures and some of the work that you've done, and I'm just like, wow, like this girl can go from like zombie apocalypse to quinceañeras and weddings from like nothing. That's so awesome. So, I mean, how does that come about? Like, how do you hook up with these people that are doing these incredible projects that are so unique?
So I had a great opportunity. And when I tell you social media is amazing, I have like this weird like anxiety and I get really shy, as you could tell. Like when I came in, I'm like, hello, you know, it takes me a little bit, but then I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'm comfortable, you know, but I've always been like that. And I ended up seeing my good friend Aaron Anderson post something that he was doing something for school, and he ended up following me. I followed him, and he posted something that he had a project, and I had nothing to lose. I was like,
and what was the project for?
It was for a commercial. It was for a commercial. It was something to do with him and his wife, and it was just like a commercial or oh God, it was such a long time ago. It was something that I just had to do quick hair and makeup.
Okay.
And he was going to do it for his school and post up and stuff like that. He took numerous stuff. Like he's an amazing. And
this was just a basic makeup and hair.
Just very basic.
It wasn't any of the like zombie looking stuff. No, not yet.
No, not yet.
Okay.
Yet. And he was just like, hey, you know, like let's, you know, join each other, collaboration. Let's do this. And I was like, okay, I was all in for it. Ever since that day, I reached out. He reached out because I saw the post and everything. And he, you know, gracias a Dios, he loved what I did. And he was like, hey, I see that you do this. Can we do this? And the more he grew with his lovely wife and himself and their own like artistry and photography and everything, the more I did too. I got like
they brought you on,
and I was like, dang, this is cool. Like, thank you, you know. And he and of course during that time, I was already like my son was 1 year old. Yeah, he was one. And I was already like divorced, partying, you know, all of that. And that was my escape. That the working and everything was like my escape, my keeping busy, being mentally busy, you know, and I ended up really connecting to different people. And, you know, like I mentioned before, I worked for Monster. I did short commercials. We did film, media, anything. Special Olympics Center. I'm still big in that community. Pro boxers, a lot of lovely people that I've met, and they became friends, and it was just all collaborating. Then I got paid eventually, you know, he got paid, I got paid, you know, it was fun. And I grew as an artist, as like, you know, definitely a big dreamer, because then I got to see more in myself and be like, oh, I could do that. Okay. It was like me putting goals for myself and just slowly leveling up. Like, what more do I want to do? Yeah. So it wasn't up until COVID hit that's when I decided I need more than makeup. I need more than this type of aesthetic world. Of course, it did so much for everybody else, like, you know, losing jobs. We were, at that time I worked at Mac. I worked for him. I did my side gigs. And then I also worked for a good friend's salon out in Colorado. And
you
all
were
of
busy.
That came to a stop. Oh yeah, and a lot of things.
And with your baby.
He said if you saw my pictures, you would see him in a lot of pictures. He would come with me. These 4 amazing people that I worked with, they knew I was a mom, and he would come and just like headphones, I hate to say it, but the iPad or, you know, my phone, And he would just sit there and just like snack all day type of thing.
Yeah.
And bien calladito.
You know, it's amazing. Like, props for all the single moms out there, again, that are going out and providing for their children, getting things done. And it just I don't know why it came to mind. So you're familiar with Jenny Rivera? Mm-hmm. I went to go see her in concert back home in Oregon when I was, God, I don't even want to lie. I was really young. This was when she was barely like starting. Yeah, she was not like, I mean, this was a little hall. It wasn't like a big arena or anything like mm-hmm. This was in the beginning, early stages of her career. And so we went to the concert to go see her. And she was there and she's performing and everything. And then all of a sudden in the corner is her son, the little one, Johnny. Mm-hmm. And he was little, and she was singing and everything, and she brought him out, and she was like, "Y miren," I don't remember exactly what it was that she said, but it was something like, "Y miren, ando aquí trabajando, haciendo dinero para alimentar a mis niños, y los traigo aquí trabajando conmigo, y blah, blah, blah," and mm-hmm. that just, like what you said right now, that it just brought to memory that, because, I mean, that's how a lot of single moms, and and I'm sure that there's single dads out there too, mm-hmm. who have to go out and work and hustle and get, do things to be able to feed their children. And I think that's just so amazing. And that you were able to find a group of people that embraced you, even though you were in that situation. That's awesome. And such a blessing.
Oh, definitely. It's like, the income was always great, but having to still be and experience all of these wonderful memories with my kid and him enjoying himself, Aaron would bring his kids, his family too, and they would all play along. It was just, to me, it was just such a wonderful experience with all of that, especially knowing that I had that support, like, don't worry about it. He's fine. Just bring him. Work,
So tell me about Mac. I mean, you're working for Mac. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you already have your own set of talents and what you're bringing to the plate, but was that a opportunity that opened up other doors and I don't know, provided more education for you, or what was your time like?
So my time up until recently this year, the whole experience was great. I got certain times I had to step down from management, and I also grew with the company. A lot of experiences with educational purposes, and also wonderful people that I met that they had their own side businesses too. I didn't know anything about like LLCs or anything like that. I just knew what I like to do and what I want to do.
Yep. Like most of us.
Like, I'm like, if they
like most of us.
But I love the fact that every single one of them was like, if it's not one thing or another, but it's gonna get hard, just keep doing it and keep like not giving up type of thing. And I was always in that mentality where naturally, and I had amazing, friends and, people that I worked with that were like, we have our own side stuff. I can't do it. You got it. Are you free? Take this. There's money everywhere. And I always stuck to that mentality because, and for everybody that does know me, I'm very much so like, I'm a makeup artist, but at the same time, if I can't do it, there's plenty of money everywhere. I'm not going to let someone else miss out on something that they could go and gain,
Yeah, if you're not available,
whether it's something big or small, So a lot of my friends, like, I would team them up with Aaron. I would, he had commercials to do. For me, that was helping him, but also helping a friend. And then, everybody shares, the experience and the money too. So me personally, I just feel like that's just always like the right thing to do. And thank God that with that, I met other wonderful people that were like, you don't know how to do this? Let me teach you. So I feel like the more you give out, without expecting anything, the better things come to you.
Mm-hmm. Take me to that moment where you decide that you are going to step away from Mac, where you've been comfortably been for so many years. And how did you, and decide to launch yourself on your own now? Mm-hmm. And how did you decide? How did that come about?
So, like I mentioned, when COVID hit, that was such a huge impact on myself and my family. And I decided that, I need to go to school and I need to do more than just this. And you could only grow so much, even though like it was such a good company for me. I had to stop, take a break. And for some reason I knew it wasn't going to be like a forever for everything. But I knew that on my budget and my dreams, you still have to hustle, So I still did from 4 to 3 jobs to 2 jobs to moving to Texas. And then finally, I went to school. I worked for a different makeup company. That company went down, like they closed completely. And then, because there wasn't a transfer for me at that time to go back into Mac. And I was like, dang, I was like, all right, fine, I guess, but you still have to pay the bills. So I ended up, going to a different company, going to school, doing 2-in-1. Again, very transparent with the people that I worked with and everything. And it was hard. At that time I was 32 when I moved here. So now that I'm 34, I was like, I'm done with school. I mean, I always say that, but just like anything, it's like you're still learning and you're still picking up.
Yes.
And especially now in this new world that I have with medical aesthetics, it's a little bit more, and you still have to continue in doing so much more with like learning and educational purposes, different laws, different things, especially running your own business. So when it came to Mac, I took 1 more year and at La Cantera, and I still continued to follow everything that I was doing for my laser aesthetics and tattoo removal and all of that, but still knowing that I was like, I'm gonna have to leave my baby. This is my comfort zone. This is my main money maker, you know? But I was
stability.
My stability for everything. Yeah. But if I don't close that chapter, which is not, I mean, I'm still a freelancer, Yeah. But I was like, if I don't step out of my comfort zone, I'm never gonna know. Because I could do so many amazing things, but if I don't push myself out there more and seek my own validation, then I'm never gonna really fulfill my dreams. So I ended up, closing that chapter and doing more. And actually, I did a couple more courses. I saw that you had Vanidiosa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I say that right? Yeah.
Claudia.
Claudia. And I took her class when I moved here. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That's the lady that I went to, So it's like little things like that. And it's just like small world, But I was just like, it was amazing and short, amazing experience. And I ended up like picking that up. And then that goes hand in hand with my makeup. And then I did laser aesthetics, and I'm an LSO. And, that's a bigger thing, like in my role, like in my facility and stuff. And I had a friend that I worked with, or that I went to school with, and now I work for her. Well, it's all of our companies or little small businesses, not companies. Wow, look at me getting ahead.
Yes.
It's all of our little businesses.
You have to speak it into becoming a reality.
Exactly.
Yes.
But it was all of our small businesses going into hers. And thank God for that, because my experience with trying to leave Mac early, and right out of school, I joined into like a little, kind of like those corporate jobs for laser hair removal over at the Dominion. They were so mean. That the doctor that I had to work with, he almost broke me to where I was like, I don't want to do this.
This is not for me.
This is not for me. I went to school. I was passionate. But it took a lot, and that's how I knew I was growing, because I knew that I was going to leave Mac and devote my whole time to this. And I was like, this is what I want to do. And I know that I want to, do more for my career. But with that, I need stepping stones and this and that. But it was hard. It was hard getting accepted, especially like the way you look, the way you like don't follow other people's trends or what they look like, or the plastic world. To each their own. I don't mind, I mean, I have Botox. I have like this RBF face that I can't get rid of sometimes, and it's really me just thinking, or can't get into a street and I'm like, what is this,
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, it's just like, I just didn't follow what they were doing, you know? And I was just like back to being that little misfit, you know, that didn't belong there. And he was just mean. And I just remember I shook his hand and I was like, thank you for your time. And I left. That was it. That's all I could do.
Hexx Beauty Lounge. How did you decide on your name?
So Hexx Beauty Lounge was something that I was like, you know, I want to make it really close to my aesthetic. Very magical, very like, you know, but all the names I thought about like didn't have a nice ring to it. And I remember texting my friend and I was like, hey, like, I know you would call me out if this sounded stupid. So you got to tell me. And she's like, nothing is stupid. Like, you just overthink her, you know, because I am. And she was like, yeah, that has a good ring to it. And I was like, you know what? That's what I'm going to go for. It was more of like bringing the magic out of you. Just making you fall in love. You know, everybody believes like those Hexx, like, you know, it's like, oh, I'm going to put a spell on you to fall in love or something, you know, cheesy like that. But I was like, you know, that's cute. That's something that I want. I want people to, you know, see it and be like, oh, that's different. That's cool.
Yeah.
I like it. What's that? You know, that's very intriguing. I want to know more. That's what I want.
So right now, what types of services are you offering? And which one is your favorite? Like, you're like, this is, I do all of this, but this is what I absolutely love doing.
So I do makeup, laser hair removal, anything with lasers, from removing like small keloids and stuff like that, I could do. My most favorite service that I have is tattoo removal. Wow. So
is that as painful as they say it is?
Oh, absolutely. I've got
so wait, is it more painful to get the tattoo or to take it off? Take
it off.
Really?
It's not like, I don't mean to scare anybody and everything. I love what I do, and I really do, because it like I said, I bring more to the community too. I'll take free services, and it's like ex-gang members, you know, just bad decisions.
Yeah, just trying to help people get back on their feet.
They want a better job. They want to do, you know, better for themselves. Come on in. Let's take that off, you know? Mm-hmm. So to be honest, it's like, if you want to really get it removed, it's going to hurt. So just know that was your decision that you got, and I'm here to help you. And, you know, but with that, a lot of the aftercare that we have for you, that I have for you, is just follow them, because you also don't want to be picking, you know, any scabs, any, you know, flaking or anything like that. Just let it naturally heal itself. So, but it does hurt. It feels like a rubber band slap.
Really?
But maybe
like 1,000 times
you know,
worse?
Maybe 2 times, but it's not as bad. You know, you of course, everybody, I would like to think that anybody that does do this, they choose the correct settings. And if you go to a professional, they will do it correctly. You will heal well, and you could go up to 2-3 times. It just all depends on yourself, your intake, on if you're drinking enough water, taking your vitamins, not exposing yourself out to the sun. It's not just like you go in, you get one done. It's a process, but it's very beautiful to see that we could remove something out of you, and that later, if you know, you're like 2 sessions is enough and I'm going to tattoo something over it, or you know what, I really don't like it, I want to completely take it away, then that's an option too.
About how many sessions does it take to remove a tattoo?
You know, I have the inside of my hands done that I wanted to take off.
Okay.
That was 2 sessions and that was enough. I'm like, you know what, I really don't. Like, it's okay.
You're like, I'm okay.
Like,
I can live with it.
I actually love them, you know. But
it just depends on the tattoo, or what?
It depends on the tattoo, the history of it, how old it is, what kind of pigment is underneath. Like scar tissue, a lot of it has to do. That's why I just always. I actually had a conversation with my coworker. She had something removed, and it was very dark and pigmented and just built up right. But when she got her stuff done, it was like kind of like a chain. Like they just had her sign something, and it was like one and done, and it's still visible. It's still there. She's like, it hurt like hell, like, you know, and it's just like the way that she said the process of it was, I was like, they really just zapped you in and out, you know? So just do your research, you know, whether it's with me, anybody else, just do the research, because you also don't want to get scarred. And of course, just if it's not normal, if that pain's not normal, just speak up. You know, you could always stop and go back later on or lower the settings or something, but
Yeah.
just don't be in pain. It shouldn't hurt that bad. It hurts, but it's not like shouldn't hurt to the point where you're going to feel like your arm's coming off or something,
You've been doing this entrepreneurial stuff for such a long time, you've had a corporate job, but you've also been doing these side hustles for a very long time. And, I'm always curious with other business owners, when you go on Instagram or just on social media in general, people usually don't talk about the hard, ugly, realistic truths about owning your own business, being your own boss. Mm-hmm. They usually just paint the pretty stuff, and that's what you see on social media. So you being in this for so long, what are at least 2 or 3 truths and myths that you want to bust in regards to having your own business and being your own boss?
The truth is that you're going to absolutely have fun with it, make it your own, and, run with it. Everybody's going to see you. So never doubt yourself in that. I guess that goes into 2, right? But the myth is that you're going to have so much free time and you're going to, and it's going to just like fall into place. Like, yeah, que Dios te bendiga. But like at the same time, it's like, you got to work for it. And again, you see me sometimes like still taking my kid with me because I'm like, we're going to spend time together because I have to finish this stuff, So it's like, it definitely, it's a little bit more freedom, but it's also the work that you put in is the work that you're going to, receive back.
Mm-hmm. Madeline, what are when you see right now, when you look back at everything that you've been through, starting from like your very first memories of all the traumas, all the obstacles, all the challenges, all the dysfunction, everything that went on in your life, and you look at yourself now, what are your thoughts? What are your reflections on your past, what you've gone through, and where you're at today?
Like, damn, like I made it.
I survived.
Like I'm still here. I'm still here, and you just keep going, because if it hurts, let it hurt. Live in that moment, but don't stay there. Like, there's always something more. There's always something better. There's that light, but overall, just don't stay there. There's always growth, and you look prettier when you're happy.
You do.
You're
gorgeous.
Thank you.
You are.
Thank you so much. And it's just one of those things. It's that you overcome so much, and just when you think that was one of my goals, is that just even the smallest things, be proud of it and keep going. Even those extra 10 minutes of sleep, but that you're sleeping in a better place than you were when you were a kid.
You just said it yourself. You survived all that lifetime of hurt, of dysfunction, of relationships that weren't good for you. And yet you're still here, and you've got this huge project going for yourself. You took a chance on yourself. You had to believe in yourself, or else you wouldn't have done it. And you're getting things done. Like, you need to be proud of yourself. Be proud of yourself.
And you know what? I am. And for a long time, it took me a long time to actually say I'm proud of myself. That validation that I always seeked in, believe it or not, family, partners, just self, I found it in myself after a while. After stepping back, letting it hurt, living through it, accepting what happened, and moving on. I just had to get to that point where it's like, okay, now this is me. Now I've been there. I've done that. And seeking your own validation, accepting what happened, and moving on is the best thing you could do. So I want to say, like, for myself, I am proud of myself now. When I look back, I'm like, damn. I'm like, okay,
yes,
I did
girl.
it. And if I make it, my family's making it, my friends are making it, everybody's making it.
Yes.
But I'm not giving up.
Yes.
And
Man, congratulations on this new project. I'm so excited for you, and I can't wait, to see how you develop and grow in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. I mean, you said it earlier. Company, you got to think that company. It's gonna happen. Yes, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And I'm just so happy that you were able to come out and share your story with us. I'm glad that you felt la confianza to be able to sit down and be open the way that you have been, because I'm sure that whoever's listening or watching it, they're going to get something out of this. And maybe there's somebody who's been through similar situations such as yourself, and to be able to see somebody who has been there, gone through there, survived that type of environment, and still be able to come on top. That's so much motivation for people who are trying to come up in what you're doing, or in any other industry. For those of us, or for those who are watching or listening, how do we follow you, or how do we find you on social media?
So I have a website.
Look at you, fancy.
So I have a website. It's www.hexxlounge.com. And on Instagram, I'm under Marz Aesthetics, but I also have another page that it's just for Hexx Beauty Lounge. So with that being said, I haven't gotten a Facebook to do with it, because I like the more different type of socials with TikTok and stuff like that. So I'm a little bit everywhere, but as long as you type in Hexx Beauty Lounge, you'll find me.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Marlene, for taking the time to come out and join us. Thank you for reaching out and sharing your story.
Well, thank you for having me.
I'm really honored. I'm honored that you would choose this platform out of all the platforms, that you would choose this platform to share your story. And like I said, I'm really excited to see your growth and your development and the development of your business.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate you for having me, and you're very beautiful inside and out.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for listening and for watching this on the Savage Podcast. Thank you for following us on Instagram. We're also on TikTok, and you can watch us on YouTube. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and share this episode on your social media so that your family and friends can also enjoy the Savage Podcast. Thank you. Listo.
Ya.
¿Ya?
Ya que llore. Se acabó.